why do you need my birth certificate when I have a real ID? And I know you said earlier that real ID counts, but I'm holding the 29 pages of the SAVE Act. It does not.
Can you provide more context of how you think that the Save America Act intertwines with the Civil Rights Act?
I sure will. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Lots of questions, but also not a lot of questions, because generally the 37,000 people who I represent, and thinking about what they sent me here to do and how they pay my salary and how all of these people are being paid by taxpayers, 51% of Americans do not have the identification that you're speaking of. How familiar are you with the 1965 Voting Rights Act?
I'm not an expert. I won't claim to be.
Do you have information about what led to that legislation?
I'm somewhat familiar with the civil rights movement. I'm, again, not an expert.
More information, because you know a lot about this SAVE Act, so much so that all of us here on this committee have to take taxpayer time to come and revisit something that's being entertained on the federal level here in this state, saying we support it, but I need evidence and information that you are aware of what people who I represent had to fight for to get the right to vote.
Can you provide more context of how you think that the Save America Act intertwines with the Civil Rights Act?
I sure will. I'll use my own self for example. I have a father who joined the military right after high school. And lo and behold, his daughter was born on a military base in Germany. I happen to have needed my birth certificate. I sent off for it in August of 2025. I did not receive my birth certificate until the end of January of this year. I had gone initially. It actually took me 2 months to get the birth certificate ordered, because I went to local. They said, no, you need to go to Jeff City. I came to Jeff City. They said, no, you have to send this off to Virginia. A typical birth certificate costs $10. Mine costs $50. And I waited nearly 6 months. That disenfranchises me, because why do you need my birth certificate when I have a passport, I have a real ID, and I know you said earlier that real ID counts, but I'm holding the 29 pages of the SAVE Act. It does not. It does not. And so you're disenfranchising the same people who that 1965 Voting Rights Act was put in place to protect.
So
now, I have a copy of a poll tax receipt, because I was able this summer to attend the Medgar Evers 100-year birthday celebration. Do you know anything about Medgar Evers?
I do not.
Medgar Evers was an African-American who lived in Mississippi. He used the opportunity that he had to register people to vote. There were people that were so upset that this African-American man was registering other African-Americans that he was gunned down in his driveway. The only thing he was guilty of was registering people to vote. So there was a 100-year celebration of Medgar Evers. I went to that event, and when I got there was a beautiful lady who had a copy of a poll tax receipt. It cost $2 to vote then. Now, we know that voting shouldn't cost anything. SAVE Act isn't saying that you have to pay to vote. But how much is a passport?
I don't have a passport. I can't answer that question. Someone with a passport perhaps can.
So post-SAVE Act, Remind me again of how the process will change. I'm registered to vote. I don't have the documents the SAVE Act is asking me to provide. How does that change?
Unless Missouri changes our state law, if you're registered to vote currently and you cannot afford an ID when it's provided. So unless there's a change in state law, currently an individual can receive an ID.
Okay, I think I understand. You're saying if my name is on the voter rolls and I go and sign a paper that says, okay, I can't afford an ID, that even with the SAVE Act, they're going to print something off for me. So what about if we have, I have a daughter who's about to turn voting age. She's not registered. She also doesn't have a passport. They only last 5 years when you're a certain age. She goes to register to vote. What is she going to have? She's not currently registered post SAVE Act.
Yes, so there's a list of various documents that could be used. So as we previously referenced, so a real ID that has a proof of citizenship.
She doesn't have that.
A valid U.S. passport.
Doesn't have that.
A military identification card.
Doesn't have that.
A valid government-issued photo identification card from a federal, state, or tribal government.
He doesn't have that. So almost as if I can't get my soon-to-be college-age daughter to vote.
There's additional ones that I didn't get to. So a birth certificate can be used. Yeah. So I mean, I assume your daughter would at least have the access to a birth certificate. And if there was delays in your birth certificate, that was very unfortunate. But there's many different types of documentation that can be used for the purposes of registering to vote if the SAVE Act were to be enacted.
Okay, sounds like you just kind of made that up at the end. I'll yield.